Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Nisga'a Nation celebrates 25 years since their treaty signing, the Port of Prince Rupert welcomes its first cruise ship of the season, and Victory Day is commemorated in Canada.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Friday, May 9th, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. We begin tonight with our news local to the Northwest. Today, the Nisga'a Nation and the governments of Canada and British Columbia are commemorating the 25th anniversary of the Nisga'a Final Agreement, also known as the Nisga'a Treaty, as a major milestone on the path of reconciliation. The nation made history with the deal, signing the first modern treaty in BC history. The Nisga'a Treaty sets out the rights and interests of the Nisga'a Nation and its citizens, and the responsibilities of the Nisga'a Nation and its treaty partners. The treaty put control over land and resources back in the hands of the Nisga'a Nation, recognizing Nisga'a lands, which are 2,000 square kilometers, and provides constitutionally protected treaty rights, including treaty rights to hunt and fish in the Nass Wildlife Area and Nass Area. It has opened the door for joint economic initiatives in the responsible, sustainable development of the Nisga'a Nation's natural resources, benefiting Nisga'a citizens as well as their fellow British Columbians and Canadians. The Nisga'a are celebrating by hosting Nisga'a Day festivities, and we've sent a reporter out there. We'll have a story from Nisga'a Day for you on Monday. A new weekly report from the Kitimat RCMP has kept track of what incidents the detachment had encountered during the first week of May. At one point, a traffic stop was conducted on a vehicle in the Whitesale neighborhood that had expired insurance. The driver had to give a breath sample as well, and that sample produced a Warren reading. So the driver immediately got hit with a three-day roadside driving prohibition to go along with their violation ticket for being uninsured and their vehicle being towed. Another part of the report talked about a different vehicle being pulled over, and its driver also got a driving prohibition for driving while their license was canceled. Some highlights from Prince Rupert City Council now. Atmospheric Perspectives and Connect Landscape Architecture gave Council a presentation on the upcoming Japanese-Canadian Legacies Memorial and Mariners Memorial Wall Replacement Project. Construction on that project is expected to go ahead sometime within the next few months. Prince Rupert Council also gave both first and second reading to a proposed new update on the Fire Control and Protection Bylaw that is numbered 3633. The city's staff are currently said to be scheduling engagement with the public in the near future so that they can learn what the locals think of the proposed change. And today, the Port of Prince Rupert welcomed its first cruise ship of what is shaping up to be a busy season. The ship that arrived today was the Serenade of the Seas, carrying 2,100 passengers. It arrived at 7 this morning to stay until 5 o'clock before continuing on its route to Vancouver. The Port of Prince Rupert is expected to welcome nearly 4 dozen cruise calls this season, bringing upwards of 65,000 passengers to the community this year. The Port Authority asked locals to please use extra caution and slow down for pedestrians around Cow Bay and downtown. Coming up next, VE Day is commemorated in Canada. A group of environmental organizations say Canada's next fisheries minister should come from British Columbia. Representatives from Watershed Watch Salmon Society, Skeena Wild Conservation Trust, and Raincoast Conservation Foundation wrote an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney. They say BC representation is needed as critical Pacific salmon treaty renegotiations with the United States approach, and amid the ongoing phase of open net salmon farms in the province. They say a knowledgeable fisheries minister from BC is best positioned to protect Canadian food security, defend coastal economies, and ensure the resilience and success of ecosystems and fisheries. And a BC woman is struggling with her housing situation after her rental notified her she'd been evicted. Here's CTV's Ben Milger.
Crystal Arisman enjoys tending to the yard in the modest East Vancouver rental she shares with her 12-year-old child.
If it was just me, I could eat the mistake, right? But when it involves your child and their well-being and I want her to still be able to live comfortably.
The mistake in this case was signing this document, a mutual agreement to end a tenancy. The house she's lived in for more than 11 years recently sold. Erisman says the realtor told her she would have to move out one way or another and offered an extra month free if she signed. Had she not signed and the new owner continues to use the property as a rental, she would have been able to stay under her existing rental agreement.
She had enough time to read the document. On the top of the document, it says very clearly that you don't have any obligation to sign, but she agreed to the terms and she agreed to sign it.
Realtor Josh Zhang says one condition of this sale is that the property be vacant when the new owner takes possession. Tenants' rights advocates say renters actually have a lot of power in that situation.
In situations like that, if a tenant wants to agree to give up their home, they have a significant amount of leverage in that situation if they take the time to understand their rights and understand the situation they're in.
He says Erisman can try to dispute the agreement she signed with the residential tenancy branch, but will have to prove significant deception or coercion. She's still considering her options, but understands she'll likely need to move and worries it will be hard to find a place in her budget.
I know I will have to work more in order to afford any other place. Yeah, be inevitable. There'll be less time for my child.
She hopes others will brush up on tenants' rights before finding themselves in a similar situation. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day, is a celebration of the end of World War II. This year's celebration marked 80 years, and it was one for the books. Here's CTV's Abigail Biman.
I wanted to know the importance of this day for you.
Every day is important for me. I'm living. I'm 102 right now.
Warrant Officer Roland Lalonde helped in the liberation of the Netherlands from Nazi occupation.
It always brings a memory of the service. It always comes back at some time or another. But I had a good life.
80 years after the Allied victory in Europe, communities across the country remember Canadians' sacrifice.
A lot of the guys I joined up with passed away now.
I am not a hero. I'm a simple sailor, and I was 18 years old when I went to sea.
80 years ago, when Canada was a consequential nation, where we contributed mightily to the Allied victory.
We honor brave Canadians and Allied troops who answered the call to fight.
This Ottawa ceremony paid tribute not just to Victory in Europe Day, but the Dutch liberation.
You are free because of them.
Where Canada's pivotal role has not been forgotten.
My father was 4 years old when he was liberated, and he told me he was waving a little flag and he was so excited, and they got chocolates. They still think Canadian chocolate is the best in the world.
While in London, the royal family marked the milestone.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Along with Winston Churchill's great-great-grandson.
Let us pray for peace in Europe and across the world.
45,000 Canadians were killed in the Second World War. But of the 1 million more who served and returned home, only a few thousand are still alive today to share their stories. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
And a new era begins for the Vatican and Catholics around the globe. A new pope has been elected, and he's from an unlikely country. Here's CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin.
The sound of bells sent thousands running from the streets of Rome.
What do you think? Yes.
As to an already packed St. Peter's Square. Tens of thousands there watched a family of seagulls perch near the chimney as white smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel.
Unbelievable, yes.
All gathered here from around the world to watch this moment in history.
Habemus Papam.
We have a pope, said the senior cardinal deacon. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who has taken the name Leo XIV, emerged on the central loggia of St. Peter's Basilica.
Sancti Apostoli Petrus et Paulus.
Peace be with all of you were his first words as he called for the world to build bridges, and he also recited an Ave Maria.
Orum apostolorum Petri et Pauli et omnium sanctorum.
The faithful and the world now analyzing his speech and past to determine in what direction he will lead the church. Leo XIV is a 69-year-old American born in Chicago, Illinois, to Italian and French parents. He spent years as a missionary in Peru and becomes the first pope from the Augustinian order, the first American.
Cardinals saw in Leo XIV, this man, newly elected pope, someone who's going to continue the legacy of Pope Francis and at the same time give it a new face.
Et Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et
His name was not among those seen as frontrunners entering the conclave.
Is it actually an American pope?
It's actually an American pope.
Where's he from?
He's from Illinois. I think that's awesome. It's a great way. I mean, there's a lot going on in our country right now, but I think it's really cool.
Quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua.
An American pope from a military and economic superpower was thought unthinkable to many analysts.
So?
Viva Papa!
And his election on the fourth round of voting after black smoke had emerged twice from the chimney came faster than expected.
And the Osservatore Romano has already put out a special edition in honor of the Pope. There will also be celebrations here in days to come and a mass and moments of reflection about the future.
Turning to the weather, today's moon phase is a waxing gibbous at 91% illumination. The sun rose at 5:40 a.m. this morning and sets at 9:22 p.m. tonight. Tonight on the north coast, expect conditions to be mainly cloudy with a 60% chance of showers, winds from the southeast at 20 kilometers an hour, gusting to 40, except 60 over exposed coastal sections. Over the next few days on the north coast, expect a rainy weekend, but the sun will come out to start the week. Daily temperatures in the 9 to 13 degree range, overnight lows sitting between 7 and 9 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace Kitimat area, expect showers and winds from the south at 20 kilometers an hour, gusting to 40 and a low of 6. Over the next few days in the Terrace Kitimat area, it's looking like a mix of sun, clouds, and showers for the weekend. Then a sunny 20 degrees on Monday with that sun sticking around for a while. Daily temperatures sitting between 15 and 20 degrees, overnight lows between 5 and 7 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, conditions are looking partly cloudy with a low of 0 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect a mix of sun and clouds for the weekend that will stick around throughout the week. Temperatures in the 13 to 19 degree range, overnight lows between 3 and 5 degrees. Checking your northwest highways now. On Highway 16, watch for bridge maintenance. On Highway 37, there's bridge construction as well as frost heaves and road sweeping. On Highway 37A, watch for falling rocks. And on Telegraph Creek Road, there are muddy sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, safety concerns for healthcare workers. An increase in violence in hospitals have some calling for increased security for healthcare workers. Here's CTV's Robert Buffum.
After a string of high-profile attacks in hospitals, including a patient strangling a nurse unconscious at Vancouver General, the opposition is calling for police in some healthcare settings.
Times have changed, and I think that we've seen more than enough evidence of dangerous situations in hospitals, particularly involving weapons.
The health minister points to security guards with extra training who have been stationed in hospitals over the past 3 years. They're called Relational Security Officers, or RSOs.
We've got 781 of these across BC, and we're seeing that the rates of violence are coming down and that the WorkSafe BC claims are coming down as well.
The health ministry credits the RSOs with an 8% drop in violent incidents and a 13% decline in WorkSafe BC time loss claims. But Sturco points to this response from the safety minister Monday about their training.
There is not an expectation that they will intervene in situations that could be dangerous to them. As a matter of fact, they're told when they are in potential situations of danger to retreat and to call the police of jurisdiction.
The health ministry issued a statement Thursday advising the RSOs do in fact have heightened training that includes dealing with violence prevention, restraint education, active shooters, and managing aggressive behavior. Not good enough, says Sturco, who thinks hospitals need the equivalent of transit police, noting the new guards don't carry guns, and there's been a series of assaults with weapons on nurses.
You do not bring a flashlight and a set of handcuffs to someone with a firearm or a crossbow.
The nurses union says the security officers aren't enough and the police should be considered.
Why not look at this? This is about making sure that healthcare spaces are safe for everyone, for the staff that provide the care and for the folks that are receiving the care.
The health minister told reporters today that police in hospitals are not being considered at this time, even though the nurses working in them say more needs to be done. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
An uptick in neurological issues in New Brunswick had some calling for answers, and many believing that an environmental cause could be the culprit. But a study has found that isn't the case. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
A new study that found there's no mystery brain disease in New Brunswick won't stymie the province's probe for answers.
We need to continue to explore what's making people sick.
Reaction to a study published in JAMA Neurology that concluded there's no support for the existence of a mystery brain disease, and there's strong evidence against an environmental toxin causing patients' symptoms. Researchers reevaluated 25 patients diagnosed with a so-called neurological syndrome of unknown cause, and found they all had well-known conditions such as Alzheimer's, cancer, or head injuries.
We have what we believe here now is a case of misdiagnosis that has evolved to misinformation.
The study highlighted how patients had a broad range of very different diseases.
It's highly unlikely, or if not impossible, that a single environmental factor then could have created this syndrome that has been touted to be due to environmental toxins.
It comes as New Brunswick's Public Health reviews 222 patient files to dive into concerns about elevated levels of environmental substances found in patients. The neurologist who first diagnosed patients with an unknown illness disagrees with the study, saying in part that he has many questions regarding the methods and the content, including cases never evaluated by us or that might not have been part of this cluster.
I think it's inaccurate. I think it's false. And I think it's very, very harmful to the patients.
Stacey Quigley-Cormier's stepdaughter is one of Dr. Morero's youngest patients.
It's not that they're sick, like this study talks about. It's why. Why do they have rare antibodies? Why are multiple people in multiple families sick?
The study urges patients to get a second opinion, noting it appears few sought this. Quigley-Cormier says her stepdaughter did seek a second opinion, but thought that it was an incomplete diagnosis. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Turning to the markets now, Canada's main stock index gained more than 100 points thanks to strength in the telecom and energy sectors, while U.S. markets ended mixed as investors awaited a U.S.-China meeting on trade set for Saturday. The Canadian dollar dropped about 1/10 cent. The price of gold rose by $38. Oil rose by $1.11. Natural gas rose 20 cents and aluminum had no change. In Toronto, the TSX was up almost 104 points. The Venture Index was up 4 points. In New York, the Nasdaq was up by almost a point, and the Dow Jones dropped 119. Still ahead, where Canadian sports fans aren't heading. Welcome back. A member of an ostrich farming family says she's hopeful that her pleas to the province to advocate to save her family's 400 birds will pay off. Katie Pastany met with provincial officials to discuss an order made last year by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency that the birds be culled after an avian flu outbreak. A federal court granted them a stay of execution in late January pending a judicial review, and that decision is expected to come early next week. Pastany says the birds are now healthy and could contribute to the fight against avian flu through research because they have developed herd immunity. Canada-US trade tensions have been causing many trickle-down effects, and as CTV's Martin McMahon investigates, it's playing out on the sports field.
From long lines at the border to a sea of blue at T-Mobile Park, there's always been something special about the Blue Jays playing in Seattle. But Canada-US trade tensions means many fans are bowing out.
Normally I would go down for multiple Mariners games throughout the season, but with the dollar where it's at, the overall political climate, I'm a little more content this year just to spend my money in Canada as opposed to go down there.
I've been there when there was 25,000 Blue Jays fans in the ballpark. I would be awfully surprised if they get 25,000 for any of the 3 games.
Earlier this week, Washington's lieutenant governor gave a grim outlook of how many Canadians are expected to come down.
The initial indication was that reservations have been cut in half as a consequence of what is going on.
Some Americans are showing sympathy.
We just don't deserve you. And so I'm hoping on a larger scale than just Seattle and the Blue Jays and the Mariners, that people in America feel what it's like to not have Canada.
Ultimately, for many fans, it's disappointing it's come to this.
It's supposed to be about the baseball, and because of what's going on, they're taking away from the baseball. Even for some kids who normally would go down and enjoy this experience, if the parents aren't going to take them down, the kids aren't going to get to see it, and maybe they're getting one less Major League Baseball experience because of what's going on.
While it seems many Jays fans are going to stay home, we'll have to wait until these games actually take place to see the scale of the drop-off. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
That's our news for now. For more local news, you can visit us online at cftktv.com. All of our newscasts also go up on our YouTube page, and we're also on TikTok, Blue Sky, and X. And you can catch Week in Review with Kale Maslin over the weekend. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Monday, and have a great weekend.